that thing is sharp. Whew. All right, everybody, welcome to the show with Rips and Chewie. Come get some. Today it's time to come get some Lost Boys. It's the 30th anniversary of the Lost Boys, and we want to talk about how much we love this movie. It's one of our favorites from back in the day. We were just little wee men.
Little wee vampires.
Little wee vampires. First of all, what was your first memory of watching Lost Boys?
Actually, I didn't get to see it in the theater, unfortunately, even though it ended up being one of my favorite movies. I saw it on VHS.
Ah, yes.
Which for the kids out there is like, they don't know what that is.
VHS?
VHS.
What's that? It's almost as good as like an audio cassette.
That's right, 8-track?
Well, the movie did open 30 years ago. In fact, it was July 31st, 1987. I, too, did not see it in the theaters. I was only 7 years old, but had the benefit of having an uncle who worked, or still does work, in a profession where he edits videos for airplanes and stuff like that, and he'd bring home videos. So I was lucky enough to get a copy of The Lost Boys and watched it daily. To me, it wasn't scary. It was just, just a great movie.
Not that you want those vampires after you, because, I could see how they would be scary, but I was the same way. I thought it was more cool.
Yeah, it was just cool. They were the cool vampires. It wasn't just the normal Dracula where the guy bites the neck. And in fact, there's no neck biting in the movie. The only time you ever see any kind of action like that is when they attack the guys on the beach.
Oh, yeah. And they're more like ripping the skull open?
Yeah, it's more like, it's really not so much biting. But, even when they turn Michael, it's because he drinks the wine, The
wine blood?
The wine blood, whatever it is. Well, the story, clearly, from what you're telling me, was a riff on Peter Pan, and I didn't even know that about the Lost Boys living forever.
Not the peanut butter.
Not the peanut butter. Not the peanut butter, although that would have been cool, too. So tell us a little bit about the storyline and what you thought of the movie itself as compared to other vampire movies, and what was appealing about this one to you?
Well, actually, especially compared to vampire movies nowadays, where it's like Twilight. No offense.
Yeah.
But the whole lovelorn, blah blah. But like they were more vicious and kind of hip, if you want to use that word, and cool, and they were different looking than other vampires too, because it wasn't just their canines; it was like the teeth that are closer, like it was just different, and they could fly, and like I said, based off Lost Boys, it makes perfect sense.
They dressed cool, had cool haircuts.
Bikers.
One of them was actually Bill and Ted,
Yeah.
Well, the setting was Santa Carla, California, which is really Santa Cruz, which you've been there. There's no vampires there, right?
No, it was it was pretty disappointing. When I went there, they were closed down for the summer. I was expecting it to be just like the movie, with all these people.
Yep.
There was nothing there. It was almost like everybody got killed by vampires or something. It was really weird. Tumbleweeds.
So basically, just a synopsis of the story. Basically, a mother and her two sons are going to live with their grandfather in Santa Clara, California, and Santa Carla, excuse me.
Murder capital of the world.
The murder capital of the world. And you can see as they set up at the beginning of the movie, it's a strange area. People are strange is the theme. And you see just a bunch of weird things going on in the town, some oddities and kind of... so the boys are kind of getting used to life there. Michael, the older brother, while watching a concert of the most diesel sax player you'll ever see in your life, sees a girl, gets enamored with her.
Diesel sax player.
I don't know how else you describe him.
It's perfect. That should have been his name.
Diesel. I think that's what it says in the credits. Diesel sax player. And they end up, coercing with each other. She's involved with a group of stark raving vampires led by Kiefer Sutherland. We'll speak about the cast in a minute. But basically, Michael gets turned into a vampire, and the movie's kind of about his brother trying to figure out what's wrong with him. He enlists the help of a couple comic book store rebellious teenagers.
The
Frog Brothers. But basically, it's a little bit of a love story.
Little bit of a
love story in there with Jamie Gertz and Jason Patric. And the movie's basically about how he's coping with being a vampire and trying to learn the ways of the vampire by the gang leader.
The ways of the force.
Yeah.
The ways of karate.
And yes, exactly. And and Corey Haim, who plays Sam, Michael's little brother, trying to snap him out of it, figure out what's going on. It's a whole bunch of hijinks, good family fun. But we will talk about the cast. So Jason Patric, I mean, this was one of the movies that launched a lot of these guys.
Oh, yeah.
Jason Patric for sure. Corey Haim had already had some success with some movies at that point. But again, Corey Haim and Corey Feldman always get lumped kind of together. The Coreys.
Kind of like us, except
exactly
actually popular.
Right, so, with some notoriety and some money, yes. The mom, Lucy, was played by Diane Wiest. Bernard Hughes was Grandpa. Edward Herman of Overboard fame. Tofudi, where are you when I need you? Plays Max, who plays a big role in this film as well. Kiefer Sutherland as David, the leader of the Ring of Vampires. Jamie Gertz as Star, who is obviously
A hippie.
the hippie woman who's the affection of Michael, who played by Jason Patric. And then you got a bunch of the... you obviously have Corey Feldman, like we said. And Jameson Newlander, who played Alan Frog, the Edgar Frog's brother.
That might be his only role ever.
It could be. I've never heard of him other than that. And then you've got Brooke McCarter, who played Paul, Billy Worth, who played Dwayne, Alex Winter, who you might remember from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and Bogus Journey as Marco. Little Guy Laddie was played by Chance Michael Corbett, and Alexander Bacon Chapman. I love Bacon. Played Greg. So it had a pretty good cast. I mean, you know, the top portion of it are people who've been in lots of different movies and stuff. And if you don't know their names, you definitely would recognize their faces from other things that you've seen them in. Who was your favorite character in the movie?
Well, that's tough. I sort of like Grandpa.
Grandpa.
Grandpa was awesome. I wanted, not that I didn't love my own grandpa, but he was
You liked him better?
I liked him better. No, I love my grandpas, but yeah. Grandpa was awesome, especially, you know, his opening scene where he's just lying there, you know, like, playing dead.
Yep.
Doing it. From what I heard of it, doing a damn good job of it.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's just so random. Like, who would have put that in the story? It's
Yes.
just so random.
There's a
Like,
lot of
awesome.
very strange things about the movie, but are very endearing. It's funny. I love a lot of the characters in the movie. You know, I don't know if I have a favorite. Maybe Nanook, the dog.
I was just about to say Nanook. Yeah. Awesomest husky ever.
You know, Nanook saves the day at the end too. He helps out. He helps contributing to the vampire apocalypse. But yes, nonetheless, there's a lot of good characters in this movie. Joel Schumacher. Want to talk about his contribution to this movie?
Yeah. Well, he's kind of best known for putting nipples on the bat suit.
Yes.
You know, but I feel like he's forever going to be cool because of this movie.
Yeah.
So no matter what he does after, what he did before, I just see him as the director of The Lost Boys.
Yeah. And there were some spin-offs of this movie, none of which had any notoriety or any talent in it.
Unfortunately.
You know, what did you think of, you know, a lot of, especially in the time of this movie, you know, horror movies were huge at this time. You had all the Nightmare on Elm Streets, you had all the Friday the 13th, you know. At this point, you probably had like three Halloweens, one of which wasn't Michael Myers, but it was the Season of the Witch with the masks. You know, all these horror movies, and plus, I mean, all these other ones that are less known, but that we would know, obviously.
Yeah.
What did you think of the makeup and the special effects for that era? You know, what did you think of how they did it?
I thought it was great. I mean, they really did look like they were flying to me as a
Yeah.
kid. You know, there's a lot of practical effects, but, you know, I guess they didn't have computer effects
Right.
at that time, but there's nothing about it that I could watch today and not go like, oh my god, there's a friggin' wire.
Right.
It doesn't strike me as corny. It
Yeah.
still works, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean,
Holds up.
from everything. I mean, you know, as far as special effects, you know, the flying and stuff like that, you know, there's really not a ton of... It's not a movie that needed a ton of, like, visual stuff added into it. I mean, one of the coolest scenes in the movie is where, you know, they're all hanging from the bridge and they all just kind of drop and Michael's hanging there for dear life. This is before he becomes a vampire. And he lets go and it's just, you know...
you
know,
like
but
he's screaming.
But you know, but it's a movie that definitely didn't have many flaws as far as the makeup and the effects. The makeup I thought was good. They didn't overdo the vampire thing,
Yeah.
as you could see with Kiefer Sutherland here. You know, the fangs are very fangy, but it's not a whole lot of production. Maybe a little bit in the eyes, but different
brow.
color eyes and stuff like that. But Kiefer Sutherland's got a pretty diabolical look anyway.
Yeah, he's good at that.
Yeah.
He's like the linchpin.
That's it. One of the favorite things that still, even to this day, with one of my best friends, Tommy, who I've watched this movie with 100 times, and even, I think everybody who knows this movie, there's something about the soundtrack and some of the songs that really get you. You got you got a couple cover songs on here. You got Roger Daltrey does "Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me," and you've got I believe it was Echo and the Bunnymen who did. Excuse me.
Where'd he go?
Echo and the Bunnymen who did the I Still Believe, not Still Believe, cover of People Are Strange at the beginning of the movie, which was actually, I think I knew that version before I knew the Doors version.
Yeah, I had no idea.
So, when I heard the Doors version, I was like, oh, it's not as good as, obviously over time that changed. But
wasn't there a big picture of Jim Morrison in their cave?
Yes.
I think? So maybe that was like a little...
Yes, with the necklace and, a little ode to, maybe Schumacher's a big fan of his. But, there's In Excess is on it, Roger Daltrey.
Good times.
Good times,
that was
for sure.
my favorite song when I was a kid.
Probably the two most popular songs, I think, from this movie are Cry Little Sister, which everybody can probably sit there and go, Cry Little Sister now. And say some of the words. You make up your own, too. Like, Cry Little Nucci. We always used to make fun of it. But that's a popular song. People have that in their heads forever. But, of course, the classic scene where Michael meets Star at the small concert there with the Diesel, the sax player. Song by Tim Capella called "I Still Believe."
Yeah, I was actually very inspired by that because I can't tell you how many times a week you could find me down by the beach with my shirt off by a bonfire playing sax.
Did you have a long ponytail too?
Absolutely.
The best thing about the guy though is where he's singing it, and the conviction which he sings is "Still Believe," and he sticks his hand up, and he's really into it. But the soundtrack is definitely iconic. Scenes in the movie. What is your favorite scene in the movie?
Oh God, probably I love the opening where just across the water and Cry Little Sister, like you mentioned, with those beats coming in. Like that's like one of my favorite openings of any movie.
Yep.
And then it goes right into the boardwalk at night and into the scene where you meet the Lost Boys for the first time. But
yep.
Also, my other favorite scene that I've rewound and rewatched a million times was the initiation's over, Michael. Time to join the club. Man, I can't tell you how many times I've seen that.
Yep. I used to watch. There's the one part where the guy gets bit in the head and the blood squirts out of his head.
And that happens when you bite somebody.
Well, I would imagine, yeah.
He might bite you in the back of the skull.
Yeah.
Take off your hat.
I used to love the part where, and I don't know why, just where Corey Haim Sam is about to take a bath or whatever, and he's singing the song and he's calling with Nanook and everything, and but there's so many different parts in the movie. I like where they're trying to get Max to see if he's a vampire, and he's loaded with garlic, and they're spraying him, and they're messing with him at dinner, and he's kind of like whatever, and then you find out obviously he's a vampire later, but there's so many good scenes, man.
Say when they're getting provisions and all that stuff, and they bust into the church.
Yes.
Was it during a wedding or something? And then you just see them filling up their water bottle.
The water, with the holy water. Yeah.
And then he's like,
there's so many good parts. I mean, all the interactions with Sam and the Frog Brothers are great because they're so into it. Like, hey man, like Corey Feldman is so into it. Some of the favorite quotes from the movie. So we've got a list of the quotes here. Some of them are obviously iconic. What did you do to my dog, you asshole? that's obviously when Nanook has the blood all over him, and you just said one before. Initiation's over, Michael. Time to join the club.
I can't tell you how many times in my life I walked up to somebody and said, "I didn't invite you this time, Max."
Yeah.
Even if their name's not Max, it still works.
It does work. So after that part, when they're done feeding, so now you know what we are. Now you know what you are. He walks away. You'll never grow old, Michael, and you'll never die. But you must feed.
On tacos,
on a rodeo king from Burger King.
Exactly.
Burn rubber, does that mean warp speed? There's so many good lines.
You tried to make me a killer. You are a killer.
You missed, sucker. Only once, pal.
Was that Stallone?
Yeah. only once, pal. Death by stereo. Wow, Death by Stereo.
I think a band took that name after that movie.
Death by Stereo,
Death by
yeah.
Stereo, there's a band with that name.
Yep.
Or was.
You tried to make me a killer. You are a killer. I didn't invite you this time, Max. There's always the one we were screaming earlier. My blood is in your veins. So is mine.
His voice kind of cracked or
Yeah.
it sounded funny. So is mine. I always thought that was funny, but it works.
Your boys and my boys. Great, the blood-sucking Brady Bunch. And one thing, the grandpa at the end, it's like the last line of the movie before they look at each other after all is said and done. He goes, one thing about living in Santa Clara I could never stomach. All the damn vampires. And then they look at each other, and that's pretty much how the movie ends.
Rich
But,
closes.
you know, some of the actors that were in the movie obviously did not make it to this showing today, and they're unfortunately not going to be able to see this, but just wanted to give a shout out to Corey Haim, Grandpa, Bernard Hughes, Ed Herman, and Brooke McCarter, who are no longer with us. So rest in peace, guys. You did a great job on the movie. As we were talking about before, some of the sequels. What did you think of them? Did you see any of them? Were they worth it?
I think I might have seen 2 of them. They were so good that I only remember like maybe seeing them. I definitely saw the first sequel, number 2, and it just I don't know. I just couldn't get over the fact that it was they had this great movie and they didn't make a big sequel. This was like direct to video or something, and it just. For me, it wasn't good. I hate to like brag on it, but it just wasn't good.
I can imagine. I mean, most sequels that were made that didn't have the same actors in them, some of them that do have the same actors in them suck, let alone ones that are just kind of spin-offs, like like American Pie, the spin-offs, and the ones that didn't have the main cast in them, like whatever they were, the Band Camp one, it's not worth a crap, but...
they had like 20 plus years to come up with a good sequel, and... that was what they gave.
At that point, it's over and done with, and I'm sure one day they will do a remake of The Lost Boys, and it will not even touch the one from 1987. It is impossible. But good things happen. Where are they now? David, the vampire leader, actually did not die, but he did become a special agent for CTU. He changed his name to Jack Bauer, and is now actually the president of the United States, taking over for the president who perished in an explosion. I believe, what the hell's the name of that show? I forgot what it is. Like the something president or whatever. I don't watch it, but I did watch 24. But anyway, so any parting words for our Lost Boys fans out here?
I think it's the best vampire movie ever made, like hands down.
Agreed.
I can't really think of any vampire movie. I mean.
The funny thing about it is that it's not. It's a vampire movie that really. It doesn't even need to be a vampire movie in a way. Like the story,
the game could have been like hopped up on goofballs.
Like you know what I mean? Like the story itself doesn't revolve around the fact that it does revolve around the fact that they're vampires, but it could have been any kind of gang.
Wait a minute, it was a vampire movie this whole time.
It's a cool movie without it even being a vampire movie. Like just the characters themselves and the premise of these guys going to a new town. It's almost like Karate Kid, where there's a guy that's trying to get with these dudes that who because he has no friends in the area, and he will do anything to kind of make them impressed, and it doesn't end up working out, but. It is a great movie. It's different than most Dracula or vampire movies. Either way, that's what makes it special, and that's why we're here 30 years later commemorating it. Never forgotten. And we'd like to thank everybody for watching. Please follow us on Facebook, Rips Wrestling Roundup, RIPPS Wrestling Roundup. You can also watch us weekly with all of our different videos. Come get some on YouTube. Anything else?
Vampire? Oh no! Yeah,
still sharp, man.
It's nowhere near his. Go, yay! Jesus, cut. It's over.
That's all the time we got, folks. See you next time with a little more. Come get some.